Here we are looking at chemical equations, and just as we have always been seeing it, chemical equation is nothing new here. Just the difference is the word chemical together with the equation. Just as we saw in mathematics, an equation is an expression which is involving an equal sign. However, in chemistry, there is a difference. Now, consider mathematics. We can have x plus 2x giving us 10. This one we can refer it as an equation. But for math, for chemistry, where we have, for instance, magnesium, where it is combined with chlorine gas to end up giving us a compound of magnesium chloride. This is a chemical equation. So all of them are equations, but the difference is this is involving reactions of the elements to form compound, whereas this is just involving addition or subtraction so that we can have an equal sign there. So that is the difference. However, here we are looking at several reactions that give us a chemical equation. So some of which we shall look at. We have reactions of elements. Reactions of elements. Reactions of elements. Here we are having elements themselves reacting to form compounds. And we have several of them. They react. We are saying that the reaction of elements, they react so that we saw it in chemical bonding, that the reaction occurs for these elements to get stable. And therefore, they attain that reaction. For instance, we can have oxygen molecule, which is reacting with water, with hydrogen, it is reacting with hydrogen gas, and ending up giving us our water, which is liquid. So this is reactions of oxygen and hydrogen to end up giving us water, which when we balance it exists like that. So this is a chemical reaction of two elements, hydrogen and oxygen. However, they exist as diatomic gases in their molecular states. So, second, we can also look at reaction. For example, we are combining carbon with hydrogen to give us methane. That is, we have carbon combining with hydrogen gas to end up giving us methane gas. So, just to balance, we just need 4 hydrogen, which is this, and therefore we have methane. This reaction, it is elementary. We have carbon as an element, it is combining with hydrogen as an element, but in molecular state existing as diatomic molecule to end up giving us methane gas. So we can also have reactions where reactions of compounds. Here we can have, for example, we can have reaction of, let us say, acids and carbonates. If we take, for example, an acid such as sulfuric acid, which exists in aqueous state, combining with a carbonate, for example, of sodium, that is sodium carbonate, which is that, can be in solution form or in solid form, whichever. But the reaction which occur, it will react, however, these are compounds combining. In their reaction, they will react, and later on we shall have also compound being formed. So here we shall end up having, that is a salt of sodium sulfate, which is written as that, plus carbon dioxide, which is a gas, plus water, which is a liquid. At the end of the day, we just balance this. If you check very well, we are having, of course, we are having a sulfate molecule which exists in sodium. We are having 2 sodium which are also existing here. We are having 2 hydrogen which are existing within the water, and we are having 1 carbon atom which is existing within carbon dioxide. The 3 oxygens on the carbonate, 2 exist on the carbon dioxide and 1 is existing on water. And therefore this equation is considered balanced. However, in most cases, in reacting these chemical equations, the major challenge to the students, it is what is formed. What is reacting? It is simple because it is always given. But the purpose, the major chemistry is, are we certain of what is formed when the given reactants are to react? So now here we are looking at how are we certain to know that this is formed. For example, now here we are saying you're given with sodium sulfate. For a layman understanding, how do we construct to come up with a good chemistry? We are saying that sodium sulfate, before a student knows that this is a formula of sulfuric acid, this is a formula of sodium carbonate, how does he or she able to come up with such? So we are saying that by saying sulfuric acid, we shall be aware that sulfuric acid, all acids are resulting from combination of a radical and what? Combination of a radical and hydrogen. So we are saying that if we have hydrogen and the radical which is existing, it is a sulfate. So at the end of the day, a sulfate has valence 2, whereas hydrogen has valence 1. It has valence 1 because it can either lose or gain 1 electron, whereas the sulfate is having valence 2. So by combination at the end of the story, we shall be having a formula of sulfuric acid existing as this. But we know all acids exist in aqueous phase, so therefore we are having aqueous. So it is combining with sodium carbonate. We are assuming that the student still doesn't know how to write sodium carbonate. How do we come up with the concept? Ranging from atomic structure, we agree that sodium, it is the 11th on the periodic table. It has atomic number as 11. This permits us to write configuration as 2 to 8 to 1 and indicating that it is a metal, meaning that therefore it can lose this electron to make it attain valence of 1. Meaning my sodium, I can permit to write it as sodium as this. So I'm having carbonate. Carbonate is a radical. It is known. It has valence 2. So by combining this, maybe this student will be able to come up with the formula of sodium carbonate as this. So he will be able to put it here and say this is sodium carbonate. And when you put it there as sodium carbonate, which in whichever state, it is a soluble carbonate, can be aqueous, or perhaps it can exist as a powder or a solid. This when they happen to react. Now the student needs a concept. What is formed? What is formed is the most challenging to everyone who does chemistry. So we are saying that, but we are aware that acids from theory, acids react with carbonate to give a salt, carbon dioxide and water. Now here we are having a salt. A salt is a compound which is formed when the ionizable hydrogen of an acid is replaced by a metal. So we are saying between these reactions, who is a metal? The metal is the sodium, whereas the irreplaceable hydrogen of the acid are here. So when we swap sodium to replace where the hydrogen is, so we have the salt as this. We shall have sodium, it is already in this place, and we are saying 2 of them. It means that it is sodium replacing, meaning sodium is combining with the sulfate. So at the end of the day, we shall have sodium sulfate. But we said sodium has valence 1, sodium has valence 1, and sulfate has valence 2. It means that the salt generated will be sodium sulfate, which is this. So having known that this is sodium sulfate, and the rest of the thing is, we end up getting also carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide means it is a combination of carbon and oxygen. So still a student who does not know, you come and say, my carbon, it is the, if you look at it, is the 6th. By configuration is 2 to 4, meaning it has valence 4, you exist like that. So therefore oxygen also, which we know, on atomic numbers, it is the 8th, meaning it is 2 to 6. If you look at it, by nature it is a non-metal, so therefore it means it gains electron according to atomic structure and bonding. It will be gaining 2 electrons, making it have valence 2. Because we say valence is the number of electrons gained or lost by an atom, depending on its nature. The metallic atoms lose, whereas the non-metallic atoms gain. So we are saying it gains 2. So this one, since they have a common factor, we can just reduce. By 2 you remain with 2, and by this one, and these 2 crosses to the oxygen, and we end up having carbon dioxide as such. So you also say plus carbon dioxide, and the other product we say it is water. And if it is water, it means that we just put water is a combination of of oxygen and hydrogen. If I do not know the formula, a student will say hydrogen has valence 1, whereas oxygen we have just seen that it has valence 2. So it means that the correct formula of water, it will be H2O. So it may not need the student to critically know a lot of chemistry, but to have the basics on how these can be generated. That is what we have. So the basic chemistry here, it is how those elements react. Is the student able to write the correct formula of the compound? And is the student certain of what is to be formed after the reaction? If those two questions a student can have them, then a chemical equation, it is simple to such a student. So let us look at another example of how this can come along. We look at this example. We can say, for example, magnesium carbonate, it is reacting with the nitric acid, reacting with nitric acid to give us whatever it is giving. But already we know it at basics that carbon dioxide and water then salt. So we are having here, the major thing is we are getting salt, we are getting carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide. Then we are having also water. The puzzling kit is magnesium carbonate is this, nitric acid is this. But before that, how does the student get to know that this is nitric acid, is carbon dioxide? So the thing is, magnesium carbonate, we know magnesium, it is this. And we are saying it is the 12th. So by configuration is 2 to 8 to what? To 2, meaning it is a metal. So it loses 2 electrons to give it valence as 2. And we are saying that on top of that also, we are saying what of the carbonate? Carbonate is a radical. Being a radical, we just attach it because it is a group of atoms, meaning that it is just coming in combination. It also has valence 2. So by this valence, we can reduce the valence and they just end up having magnesium carbonate, just as simple as this. So this becomes magnesium carbonate. Within this design state, it could be in solid state. So when we have this magnesium carbonate, it is reacting with nitric acid. But nitric acid, it is in words. How does the student transform the nitric acid in words into a chemical formula? Acid is a compound which has hydrogen ion as its only possible of the ion. And this is nitric, it means it has its radical attached to the hydrogen, is a nitrate. So maybe I may be having hydrogen and a nitrate. But in real senses, nitrate is a radical, whereas hydrogen is just an atom. This was valence 1, whereas this one has valence 1. By combining the two, we end up having nitric acid as C. So this student has passed, first of all, writing the chemical formula of the reactants before he goes on what is formed. So this is in a way as now we are saying in theory that carbonate reacts with acids to generate salt, water, and carbon dioxide. Now, here the tough one is salt. How does he know what is a salt? By definition, a salt is a compound formed when a metal replaces all the hydrogen atoms of an acid. So what happened? The metal in this reaction, which is magnesium, it is replaced who? It is replacing the hydrogen ion. It means that the place where the hydrogen ion is, we are placing magnesium. And therefore, it will cease from being nitric acid, but rather it will be transformed into magnesium nitrate. So we are having magnesium. First of all, magnesium we have valence 2, and nitrate, therefore it has valence 1. So by combining this, we end up crossing. So at the end of the day, we cannot transform these two here because it will appear as 32. So what do? We end up establishing a bracket and we indicate that this 2 was for magnesium and we put it outside the bracket. And we end up having magnesium nitrate as this. It is a soluble salt. So it exists as aqueous. And the other thing is, after getting the salt, magnesium nitrate, the next thing is getting carbon dioxide and water, which are other products. So carbon dioxide, we saw that it is a combination of oxygen and carbon. But whether we say that oxygen, as we saw it, oxygen it is this and carbon it is that. Carbon it is the 6th, meaning configuration is 2 to 4, whereas this is the 8th, meaning configuration is 2 to 6. This one gains 2 electrons, whereas this one can gain 4 or lose 4, meaning valence is 4, whereas this one valence is 2. Since the valences have common factor, we can reduce this to 2 and this to 1, and therefore when we combine, carbon dioxide will exist as CO2, that is carbon dioxide, and we shall have it as carbon dioxide there. It is gas. And this carbon dioxide, we are saying that the other additional product onto that, it is water. Water, it is the compound by hydrogen and oxygen. The valence of hydrogen is 1, that of oxygen is. Close out, we are ending up having H2O, and we end up having it as our water. So the other analysis which remains is to check out whether the atoms balance. When you look at water here, we are having water having 2 hydrogen, whereas here we are having 1 hydrogen. Meaning we place the 2 here to balance the hydrogen. And therefore this 2 also raises the number of nitrates. They become 2 nitrates, which were already existing here. And when you analyze other atoms, you find that they balance, and therefore the equation has balance. So that is the idea behind chemical equations. So that is how far we can discuss. Thank you so much.